This river's in high flood, but not as high as it could be. I think right here there must be some kind of water feature because there's a very consistent couple of big waves there. I think you could almost back kayak, run that curl right there. I'm in a second pizzeria that I went to at Katarina's suggestion. The first one didn't have the special dish she was talking about and didn't have any menu in English. This place has both, so I will definitely eat here, not eat in the other place while I'm here for 4 days. You go figure. And this panel has not only gymnastics in it, but a considerable amount of clown humor. These two big clowns here, their noses connected, are the tight wire for that acrobatic group that is holding that colossal man on top. Now I would assume there's some kind of story to this, but maybe not. Also, I'm curious, what are those two balls sticking out of that guy's butt up in the corner there? It may just be a combination of whimsical humor and circus stuff. Very atmospheric place. I think pizzeria just, I don't know what it means. It may just be a generic name. But this is nicely done. It'll probably fill up quite a bit later. This is Friday night. I'm here early as usual. This is baked eggplant and something else. I can't remember what those other things are. And it's piping boiling hot right now, so I'll wait a while before I dig into it. So apparently preparing some kind of a wedding celebration. And how do you think I figured that one out? Right there. And it promises to be a rather raucous one. These balloons that are in heart shape. Kind of cool, eh? It seems the activity should pick up here in just about the time that I'm about ready to finish and be gone. This is the first square that I've been in on this trip that truly does feel authentic and old, at least to whatever age it purports to be. I've seen older squares in Sibiu, but they don't seem as cohesive, as complete, and as original as this one does. And I want to get that scene right there, because it almost seems quite ethereal, if that's appropriate, with that clouds in the back hills. Is that beautiful or what? This is my accommodation for 4 nights at Sport Hotel, which kind of like is a hostel, but not really. But the rooms are inexpensive. This room is 15 euros a night, and if you take it for 4 nights, which I have, it's 12 euros. And that's a darn good price in this town. Or anywhere for that matter. I have 2 beds, only need 1 of course. I have my own bathroom, but it's a simple but nicely done. It's relatively newly done. The city had actual remains of it, including I believe that tower that you can see, and to the left of that car you see a pile of rubble. We have kind of a classic old tower, and dropping down you can see what may have been the original height of the wall. Now I'm bringing the umbrella down to the point where I think the top of the wall was, right about in there. Okay, and these are the remnants that have been preserved, and then there's another stretch to my left, and we'll walk down along this way. I have a little bit of time to kill before I go on my little church trip. They're like most walls that we've seen. Now, I don't know who created this. I don't think it was Roman, and it didn't have to be a hill town that had to be protected. But you can see how wide it is, probably 6-7 feet wide. But if we took this as the design, which I don't think it is, it would have all solid rock inside, but I think there's probably these face pieces, and then the internal is rock, rubble, and dirt. Maybe even compacted somehow. And here a nice walkway created by the wall, so we'll take advantage of it. In addition to the very pretty and authentic center of this old town, looking immediately around at the hills, it's very pretty too. You can imagine having a home up there. That would be a lovely place. They do get a winter though, and I think it's probably substantial, since I saw some houses had ice dam devices on them. Okay, and from this view you can see how the wall kind of winds around to the left there to that tower and that building, which looks like it's part of the complex. It looks fortress-like, a bastion. You can see, and we'll see when we get closer, Archimedes firing slots. And here, additional wall, but my guess is that may have been something later just to hold back a road, or a river. I can't be sure, because you'll notice it has a twin over here on the left side of what would be a stream bed or a moat, and to the right of the wall itself. So we'll get close. Well, it's certainly a wall of some sort, and it's not used for anything currently now. And looking at the top, I can't tell whether it might have been an aqueduct, but I don't see that. Although at the end of that one there is a hole, so it's possible this was an aqueduct. But I'm also guessing that it could just as easily have been a triple wall system. If you had to get over those two walls, a lot of killing could be done in the interim, particularly if that was a moat filled with water. It's interesting that both of these narrow or thin walls seem to have a lower wall face on this side, which could have been the basis for a catwalk for shooting from. Certainly a bastion. And this old doorway simply could have been an access to the top of the wall for the soldiers. So looking at the back, or the inside of the town's view of the bastion and its supporting tower. Here we can see the wall continues, at least remnants. And if not today, because I don't have the time now, I'll continue to follow this wall all the way around if I can. I'll stop here, and later on we'll continue this walk. But it's interesting as I see these villages with walls farther and farther away from what I think of as the center of medieval Europe, like Italy. I realize how widespread was this circle or area of anarchy from about 500 AD to just short of, probably closer to 1000 AD. There still was probably anarchy of sorts in places on up into the 12th and 13th century, but I'm just guessing. Just wanted to get the shot I'd seen earlier of the church from this viewpoint, and that what I assume is a defensive tower part of the wall, which probably is right to the left where you see that pile of debris. It probably went right straight through here. Actually probably went right straight through this parking lot, because here's the one part of the wall and extend it through that pile of rock, and it aligns with that rough section of the tower, which was where the wall tied in. And you can see how there were scaffolding up on top for a porch of some sort, and that would have supported an original stairway that went up there, gave you access to it from inside the fort, and then you would shoot out to the left. A little shop has been installed, inside this tower. What an irony it would have been, and is, but to the people who built this and fortified it and used it, that it should be someday turned into a quaint little shop for what was then probably not even known as a term, tourist, although there have always been travelers. Marco Polo, the fellow that's often referred to in the later centuries in this area. On the river, for whatever benefit that has, and it's a little bit of a walk, maybe a 10-15 minute walk up to the main square, which is up to the left there. It has a little balcony here, which probably is nice for people who smoke. So Katerina, the extremely helpful young woman that works the tourist office and has for 5 years, has arranged a driver, which is her husband, for 20 euros, which is roughly 5 euros per set of churches that we'll visit, and includes waiting time and all that sort of thing. And because it's a long extra drive, we rounded it off to 20, and that was just fine. And so we'll be going to a church here, which is the most well-known one. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Church. And then we'll backtrack along, and then over here to Krivé, and then from Krivé along through here to Lukov. Tomorrow or Sunday I will take a city bus, which I can do easily enough, and go over to the one that's here. However you might say that. Sunday I will take a couple of buses and go to Svidnek to see another couple of churches. Also on this trip, I believe, either here or this one on Sunday, is an outdoor museum, kind of what I've seen in Bucharest and also I think outside of Sibiu. The first one we'll see today on Saturday is Hervartov. The second will be this at Lukov. The second will be this one at Krivé. And the third one will be this one at Lukov. And tomorrow we'll go here and see two churches in the museum at Bardejovské Kupele. Here we are at Hervartov, and we'll enter into it in a few minutes. We have to pay to get in, of course, and then pay to use the video, which is okay. But a very pretty place, this little village. Not more than, I don't think it took us 15 minutes to get outside here. I think he's gone ahead. It's always kind of fun when you've researched something, you've discovered it in a guidebook or on the internet, and you've researched it, and then you come and actually visit the church. I'm guessing the gentleman I spoke to, or at least tried to, is going to open up for me right now. I can hear it. And I'll come back and we'll get some more shots in a moment. This room here is apparently where the people would normally sit, or at least some group of people. Whether this was an addition or what, or whether the people behind me were lower in status than the people who had these pews, I don't really know. But this was a small farming community, so how much distinction could there have been? I'm trying to keep that giant spotlight from, like, oh, here come people. Damn. Maybe they were just locals. But it's interesting that it's not only wood, but it's painted wood. Notice how it has the design of an upturned boat, if you will.
They are not clean, not soul, but I don't know how to explain. Just clean.
Physically.
Physically, yes.
Yes. So.
Just part of the history. We don't know why.
Right. Yeah.
This
Greek Orthodox Church.
this is church is Roman Catholic.
Oh, Roman Catholic. Ah.
Yes, only one from 27 wooden churches in East Slovakia.
St. George and the Dragon.
Job for one.
Difficult to say. I don't know.
So this was painted by a local painter in 1665, but imagine how this might have looked when it was freshly painted.
It was period of Protestants, so it's very special, these pictures.
Another particularly interesting thing about this church is that it was initially Catholic, and then in the 17th century it converted, probably during the Reformation, to Protestant, and then after some kind of event, which I would have to research, it went back to being Catholic, which it is now. How old are these statues?
These statues is from 19th century.
Oh, okay.
It's younger. St. Sebastian and the Nativity, Christos resurrection from 19th century, but these statues are from wood.
Wooden statue.
Wooden statue.
Yes.
To som zistila práve počas tých poučení.
And this is some of the detail on the wall that we can still see. Again, imagine how it might have been when it was absolutely fresh. Although now it has not only a patina to it, I'm sure, but it also has a, what would you say, intellectual patina? It's the Last Supper. If we look closely at the wood up there, and we'll go up there and do so, it looks like it was painted also. So a little bit of the Sistine Chapel idea here. This being an allusion to a pulpit that sits over the top of this small podium. And here looking up at the ceiling. And the rear of the church, the choir. And look at those substantial posts. Pretty candlesticks. I don't know how old these would be. It's interesting, I was looking at this room here from inside the church and realized that
how to make things.
it has, the building has gone at an angle like this, but also from front to back. It goes downhill from behind me. But the important thing, I think, is that this entire building was not made with any nails at all. Go upstairs and see what's up here. I'm now upstairs, and this is the upstairs in the new section that was built in the 20th century, so it was sometime after that. It was built because the number of people in the church had increased so substantially. But it was then after that somehow that the idea of the unclean babies came to be, for whatever reason. Mass is said here once a week, but not on a Sunday, because on Sunday the new church would be used. But for a Catholic, this must be a very nostalgic experience. This, of course, is the organ. These, of course, are the Stations of the Cross. How many examples I have seen of this, and such diverse examples. I didn't see how you could climb up into the attic. Can't be. The outside here of the oldest part of the church is made from the big log slabs, and then the inside wall is much thinner wood. I wonder if there's some insulating value in that design that helps to protect the church. The lady who was so gracious to give me information said these shingles are still made in this village by hand for this church. The blue buildings in the background are granaries and still used now for potatoes. And this linden tree is thought to be as much as 500 years old. What's interesting in this granary building is this subgrade entrance area. This would have been a cold cellar. So this granary is not just as simple as it looks. The entrance below was for the purpose of a cold cellar. Now the building itself is novel, in particular the roof. The roof is designed so that if there's a fire and the roof catches on fire, the owner can somehow take the entire roof and catapult it off to the side, thereby saving the contents of the building. A little bit of a view of the roof before we go inside. The shingles probably made here in the town, and here's the inside of the storage area, so we can go inside here, get a little bit of a look. Oh yeah. And then upstairs, of course, is another loft. And this looks like it would have been so tight that mice could not get in here. So it was, and then the surface also has a plaster or a mud, and this unique color. But that combination of the tightness of the design and that mud would keep all critters outside. Original key that you use to lock it up, and the key is kept right here in case anybody can't find it. You can see how this thing just rests on it. Now, how you got it off, I'm sure they had that technique worked out just as well as they had the design of making it. That's the fun of travel, is discovering all these novel ideas. Okay. Is it also a water reservoir for farmers and so forth?
Whatever, just tell him.
Okay.
He will stop. But he traveled all Europe. So what happened to him? Somebody stole his camera.
Ooh.
We're going there, the storm.
Oh yeah, well, no surprise.
Yes. Very high.
We're now in the little village of Krivé. we look at this granary and look at it closely at the top, notice that the building itself is domed, at least on the ends, and that is how you get that top off. You literally roll it right off. How clever.
Was born in the Syrian city of Antioch. His parents were pagans. Luke was a physician.
Now notice that this church is not richly painted. Rather, they use paintings on the walls to achieve. And notice how this entire wall is painted and forms what I think is called a Sara Christe, but I'm not sure. It's behind that wall that all of the religious activity by the priest takes place, except for what he does right here, I guess.
It's finished with a baroque lantern and poppy head with a cross. One of the bells dates back to 1826.
Now this is a holy area of the church that normally members never got to see. This was where all the Faldera and ritual takes place.
Thus losing the three-tower look, so typical for sacred objects in this area. Because of the shingles on the sanctuary and nave, and of the covering of the narthex with vertically laid boards, the church looks from outside as one part building. In reality, this part is
three-part
called
building,
narthex, named by locals as babinets. In the past, this was a place reserved for catechumens. This part is the nave. It is the largest area of the whole church. Here, the faithful gathered to take part in services. Symbolically, it represents the church that is in pilgrimage, thus all Christians living on the earth. It is compared also to the boat of St. Peter. In the middle is the press hall, the altar, with the tabernacle to keep the body and blood of Jesus Christ, then the gospel book, cross and candles. At first sight, one might say of the faithful, so that they could not see what is happening in the sanctuary. But it is the mystical aspect of the Eastern theology that is present here. We, the faithful, the heaven and with the earth. On the iconostasis,
it's one of the few things that are actually painted on
in the main
the wall. And notice how it's in a circle to guide the artist.
Century. The second row on the northern wall depicts the descent of the Holy Spirit, the transfiguration of the Lord, the ascension of the Lord, and the dormition of the Mother of God, the crater in the middle. From the northern wall we can see St. Simon with St. Jude, the Thaddeus, St. James and Zebedee, with St. Matthew and St. Bartholomew, with St. Peter followed by St. Paul, with St. Andrew, St. Thomas, with St. John, and St. James the Alphaeus, with St. Philip. We cannot identify them. Especially of interest are also the icons apart from the iconostasis. Several very rare icons from the end of the 16th century are located here, probably coming from an older, already vanished church. An interesting icon is the Saviour with the heavenly powers, which is located south of the iconostasis and dates to the end of the 16th century. It represents Christ on the throne, illuminating an uncreated St. John and an eagle, the holy evangelist Matthew. On the northern wall of the church is a precious icon of St. Michael, the Archangel, dating back to the end of the 16th century. He is depicted here as a knight with a sword, fighting against the powers of evil. On the left side is the creation of St. Michael, the Archangel, then the sacrifice of Abraham, the saving of 3 youths in the furnace, the expulsion of Adam and Eve from paradise, the sending of the prophet Habakkuk with food to Daniel, and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. In the bottom part are images presenting St. Michael destroying the army of the Pharaoh, while accompanying the Jews led by Moses. It shows the deviation of the folk painter from traditional iconography rules, visible in the figure of Christ without a halo, his figure being smaller than St. John the Baptist or the water, which is not touching the feet of either figures. These icons, together with the cross, were probably part of one iconostasis. In such a preserved state, and in such...
Here I'm just going to do a slow 360 pan.
It was painted in the 19th century.
The church looks relatively new, doesn't it? Like it's either been restored recently or whatever, I just don't know. It's a simpler church than the first one we looked at. And remember, these are now Greek Orthodox.
In the middle of the icon is the Christ with the wounds of his suffering, and next to him are the instruments of his passion: the chalice, nails, manacles, and a cross. Major renovations of the church were conducted in 1965 to 1970. In 2003, the foundations of the church were renovated, and then the tower in 2006. In 2010, the remaining covering of the church and the electrical installations were renovated. Nearby are several other interesting wooden churches. For example, the Church of Cosmo.
Just a quick view of the church from the outside since the sun came out. Novel.
Nie, to jest prawosławny. Jest katolicki, drugi jest tu na... Tutaj.
It's a very pretty church on the outside. The last one was rather ordinary. This is quite pretty. And the surroundings, of course, are beautiful. Focus a little bit on that tower there. We'll look at each one of them closely. The churches around. This is the only one that has either what you might call a terrace or what I would more likely call a porch. It is the prettiest on the outside of the three, for certain. Must be the bell. Yep, there we can see a little bit of it now.